Namaskar, hello and welcome to NCRT's special live phone-in program of NISHTHA 2.0 for secondary level. My name is Tanvi Khurana and let's understand a little bit about NISHTHA. NISHTHA is the National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers' Holistic Advancement. And today we are going to talk about or discuss course number 7 titled Integrating Gender in Schooling Processes. Let me just tell you that in the previous month of September, we did course number 4, 5 and 6 and we are continuing this process for this month. So this is the time we are taking course number 7 in English. Let's meet our experts. We have 2 experts in our studio and they'll be talking about this course. So let's meet them. We have with us Professor Millie Roy Anand. Welcome, ma'am.
Namaskar. Namaskar to all my teachers and all the school heads to this very important course. And I'm glad we got this opportunity to address all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am is from Department of Gender Studies, NCRT, New Delhi. And we also have in our studio Professor Mona Yadav. Welcome, ma'am.
Namaskar. Sabhi ko namaskar and thank you for inviting me.
Ma'am is the head of Department of Gender Studies, NCRT, New Delhi. And if you have any questions, any queries regarding this course number 7, please reach out to us. You can simply call us on our number, which is 8800440559. It's showing on your screens. You can note it down. And you're watching us live on our YouTube channel, NCERT Official. In the live chat box, you can write down your questions, queries, and we are here for next 1.5 hours. So we'll be more than happy to take all your questions. And live chat box is there. You can write it down and submit it to us. And if you want to mail us, the email ID is training@ciet.nic.in. Let's begin this discussion, and I would like to ask Professor Millie that, ma'am, what is the objective of this particular course?
Yes, surely, Tanvi. I think we all know that the secondary stage of school education is extremely crucial stage because this is the stage of adolescence and it includes children of 15 to 18 years. And as we all know, the adolescent stage is marked by physical changes, emotional and psychological changes. So this is the apt time to provide a holistic kind of education to our adolescent learners. So this sort of sums up the purpose of this course. Of course, gender is an integral aspect of this course. And the purpose of this course is we need to highlight gender as a social construct because this social construct assigns different and unequal roles to males, females and transgender students. We also need to recognize the importance of the secondary stage of school education as a crucial stage of adolescence, and as I also mentioned earlier, children undergo a lot of changes during this stage. We also need to understand the challenges of stereotypes and discrimination that are related to gender during this stage, and we need to equip our students to question the existing realities through our pedagogical processes. And the most important, I think we all know that teachers and principals, they play a very important role, but they need to unlearn their own existing perceptions about gender and relearn and then apply it into their classroom and school environment. Tanvi?
Yes. Mona ma'am, would you like to add anything?
Thank you. Very well, she has explained that what this module is about, because we need to look in how gender can be integrated into the various disciplines, how teachers can themselves, if not in the textbooks, how themselves they would be apt enough to address these concerns through their various teaching learning process. Through these modules, we even try to make how the whole environment of the school has to be gender inclusive. What roles the principals can play, what role the teachers can play, what is called as the hidden curriculum, how can we address all these concerns as being a teacher or as being a principal. So all this we would be taking in when we are dealing with this module in detail.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So now let's come to the module and understand the term gender. Millie ma'am, would you help us in understanding the term?
Yes, surely. Of course, before we get into the meaning and the concept of gender, I would also like to bring here, we all know that the new education policy was launched in 2020, and it has given a lot of importance to gender equality, gender sensitivity, and gender inclusion fund to provide equitable education. It also mentioned the importance of including transgender children. So teachers and our school heads, if you have the time, in fact you must find time to read up the National Education Policy 2020 and locate gender in the policy, and that's how we can translate through our actions how to integrate gender in the schooling processes. Tanvi, before we begin, understanding gender, I would like to have a little warm-up activity with us, with our participants.
Okay.
So as you can see, it's on the slide. So there are some statements in the left, and we have 3 columns: men, women, or both. So if you see, what are our perceptions when you think about a muscular body? So we ascribe it to men, women, or both, right? So our participants can start ticking on the relevant boxes, or or even give their views. Emotional person, who do we relate a very emotional person, a teary-eyed person to? Girls, boys, or even both? Similarly, repairing or making computers, it's a very, computers is something which generally we ascribe it to, boys or men, like, they are the ones who will be capable of doing it. Yeah. Similarly, reading newspaper in the morning. So in our homes, who reads the newspaper in the morning?
Father.
Right? Yeah,
Men.
Absolutely. And what do our mothers or our grandmothers do in the morning?
Grandmothers knit or cook.
Absolutely.
They're involved in household chores.
Who packs your tiffin? Who packs your tiffin?
Woman.
Right? Absolutely. So, and also when you think of a CEO of a multinational company, so what comes to our mind? Like
men.
Yeah, like whoever. Men. So we can't imagine women in these leadership roles. Yeah. Similarly, there's another one: applying fairness creams for a good match. Right? So we generally relate this to women. So these are some of the things which we already know. These are pre-existing notions or perceptions about gender roles. So this is a warm-up activity, Tanvi, and now I'll just go through what is gender, how do we understand gender, and how do we understand gender inclusion in schooling processes. So, we generally use these terms sex and gender very interchangeably, very casually. Yes. But no, they are not the same thing. You need to understand that gender is not simply a matter of biological difference. It is a social construct that shapes attitudes, roles, responsibilities, and behavior patterns of girls, men, women, and transgender persons in all societies. Our gender identities determine how we are perceived, what roles we are expected to do at home or in school, and whether these roles are propagated by our parents or by the school itself, which includes the administrative staff, the teachers, and the principals. So that is gender, and what is gender, and what's the difference between gender and sex? What is gender inclusion? Gender inclusion primarily involves equal treatment to all genders in terms of access to resources. We need to include both boys, girls, and transgender students in an equitable manner, whether it's access to the playground, whether it is access to school functions, or whether it is access to sports, or even the courses that you opt for. So it has to be equitable, and it has to be inclusive. Gender inclusion and gender does not discriminate between boys, girls, and transgender students, and it does not perpetuate gender stereotypes. There is a visual, down there with the father saying, "Don't cry like a." We hear this. Why are you crying like a girl? Yeah. Right? So that is a very, very thing which it is there. We've grown up listening to this. So it's like boys have that masculine image. Boys cannot have feelings. So this is what gender is all about. There is an activity also, now that we have gone through what is gender, so there's another activity that you have understood. So this will determine your sociological and biological understanding of certain statements. So I would really request our participants to go through these statements, and what do you think, whether this is a biological aspect or whether it's a sociological aspect. So one is, girls undergo much pain and emotional stress during menstrual cycle. So is this the physicality of it, or is it an emotion or a sociological aspect? Transgender persons are not capable of working in offices. So is this a perception, or is this a biological aspect? Women may not sustain leadership roles in a profession because of marriage, childbirth, and child rearing, which is very common. We always think, okay, before we hire a lady, we always think, oh, she'll get married, yes. Then she'll take leave. Yeah. So, is this a biological aspect, or is it a sociological aspect? Boys' voices change during puberty or during adolescence. This is another aspect. Similarly, I've listed a number of statements. Okay, there's one, we are always talking about transgender children. We need to include them. So when you have your class classroom transaction, when you have questions, always bring in the transgender children into your discussions, into your activities. Make children question existing realities. One is transgender children should have separate schools and hostels and toilets. So why can't this be a point of discussion in the classroom? So what do you think? Transgender children should have separate schools and hostels? Is it a biological perception or is it a sociological aspect? During menstrual cycles, girls are generally considered impure. So is this a biological aspect, or is this how we treat girls during their menstrual cycle?
This I agree with Professor Millie, because it's a very important issue. Because when we talk of menstrual health and hygiene, there are very many taboos related to it.
Absolutely.
And what perceptions we have in our various states, the different states, we have different states who have different kind of taboos regarding it. Somebody will say don't enter inside the kitchen, someone will say some other kind of a thing. So we have lot of taboos, and as a result of these taboos, the girls sometimes in these adolescent age, they do not go to the schools. And there are sometimes when we had a very good training program, if Millie you would remember that, there were trainees from the south, and they said even in many places the girls were made to sit outside or stay outside their house during these periods, because then they were not even allowed to enter inside the kitchen. So these kinds of taboos then it leads to the girls that they are not pure. It's a kind of an impurity kind of a feeling that they get. They don't go to the school, and many places we've seen that because of these taboos during these menstrual cycle days, they miss their classes. And when they miss their classes, slowly and slowly they go back into their studies.
Absolutely.
Because they are missing the good number of classes. So, and slowly they then drop out of the system.
I also would like to make one observation here. During menstrual, the whole process of menstruation is supposed to be a taboo subject at home. It's only, hush hush, if the girl needs a sanitary napkin, so she'll just, tell in her mother's ear. It's so this whole thing of the silence around this whole thing, we need to open it up.
Yes.
We also need boys to realize that menstrual cycle or menstruation is an important aspect of growing up.
Right.
Right. So they need to respect that and not make fun.
Absolutely.
And even when you go to the chemist will give you in a black wrap paper, it will not, or maybe in a brown paper, because they feel it's something not to be shown.
Yeah.
It's something to hide.
To be hidden.
So when you think of such biological things which are so natural, and you seem to, or you make them so unnatural that they really feel shy to even discuss about these issues. They have cramps, they have very many issues, maybe infections because of this, but they don't come out in the open. They hide all these things. So it's very important to, and especially at the adolescence stage or the secondary stage, to have open discussions on these issues. And maybe not in the initial stage, maybe in the later stages, boys can be also part of such discussions.
Absolutely.
Because it is important for them to also know what the girls are undergoing.
Yes.
Similarly, even the girls need to know what the boys are undergoing during this transition.
Right. Okay, so this course is going to be very helpful for especially the boys.
Yes.
Absolutely. All the male teachers and the female, if we have any transgender
important.
teachers also. So you can have these activities done in the classroom.
Classrooms,
Yes.
right.
Okay, so ma'am, let's come to another question. And secondary stage we're talking about. Why is secondary stage such a crucial stage when we talk about the school education?
Yeah, sure. Secondary stage is definitely a critical stage of adolescence, and it is at this stage that children start realizing their sexuality, their sexual identity, and so the whole importance of sexuality education is very important during this stage. At this stage, girls, boys, and transgender students undergo a lot of emotions. It could be stress. They're also subjected to violence, sexual abuse, and bullying. Some of them have also, pressures from the family in terms of, getting good grades, family relationships, maintaining the family relationships. Some girls also during this stage, they go through early marriage, early pregnancies, and they don't have anyone to share with their stress, the anguish. It's the whole culture of silence that surrounds these kind of issues, because sometimes they're scared to talk it out with their parents also, or with teachers. And also another aspect of this adolescent stage is anger management and depression. Many a times we do not recognize these kind of issues that children are going through, and particularly girls. So we need to address, we want teachers and principals, Tanvi, to recognize this stage as a very important stage, because there will be transition to adulthood after a couple of years. Some of the critical issues, that haunt this stage is, there's a high dropout rate among girls and boys at this stage for various reasons. Because for girls, because they've reached that puberty, so if the distance from home to school is very long, so parents do not want to send their girls to school because of security issues.
Ma'am, one thing I wanted to ask, so when you say high dropout rate, is it for the rural areas or for the urban areas or combined?
It's combined, and it's not that only for girls, but even for boys is dropout rate, because boys at this time, since they've grown up, so that parents want them to lend a helping hand in terms of earning and wage earning. So many children actually drop out at this stage, because, and for sometimes for parents it's like, okay, now she's grown up, so I need to get her married, that kind of the economic liability on girls' education for her security. So we need to plan our curriculum and a pedagogical process in such a way that we retain these children in school so that they pursue their higher levels of education.
I would just like to add in, Tanvi, that's because as you were talking about dropout, because the major issue with what our girls are facing at present is that the schools which are at the secondary stage, they are little far off. And when we talk of the distance, and especially at the adolescent age, and when the ladki shyani ho gayi, badi ho gayi, and at that age the parents feel if she has to go to a different town maybe to study, then what about the transportation? Who will go and drop her? Who will bring her? So security becomes a very important concern for parents, because they feel ki usko chhodna, lana, getting her, dropping her back. Then what happens is the parents feel it is okay if she doesn't study, because as it is, she's got the basic knowledge, whatever she needed by the 8th, and this is good enough for her to get married and for be a good housewife kind of a thing. So they generally, they don't take that much of initiative, unless and until, of course, government has put in so many of initiatives where we have Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, where we have escort facility, we have transportation facilities. So government is doing a lot in initiatives in these areas, because they are trying to provide whatever gaps are being left out, that transportation being an important factor of dropout. So how can we minimize that? So for that, government is working a lot. But security and transportation becomes an important concern, specifically in the rural areas, because there we do not have that much of buses plying. Then how does the child go from from the house to the school, then again come back? So it becomes an issue, and specifically for parents who are laborers or they are working in the fields. So they miss on that day labor, which they do not want to do, not at the cost of missing, because then they feel one day's food won't be coming at home. So how to manage that becomes difficult.
So basically the girls' education becomes a burden for the parents.
And they feel boys' earning is more important, because boys need to earn. So their education being more important. Though boys are dropping out, but for a different reason. Girls drop out for a different reason. Girls have initiation that they want to study, but because of certain these factors, then the parents are hesitant to send the girl child. Whereas for the boys, it is, as Professor Millie said, it's a burden of earning. How do we start earning in the as early as possible? Because now they need more economic independence at that particular age.
I'd like to add, Tanvi, one more thing, because the NEP 2020 has laid special emphasis on expanding the KGBV hostels up to class 12, upgrading them. So that clearly shows that they are concerned about the secondary stage, and the NEP has also mentioned about having effective transport facilities. So of course, so we hope, and we are hoping, that this will be translated into action, and we'll have more and more girls retained in the secondary stage. Some of the other critical issues, Tanvi, which I would like to bring forth in this stage is, as we know, adolescence is associated with various cognitive, physical and psychological changes, as I've already mentioned before. I've also mentioned sexuality education. We shy away from sexuality education is not limited to population control and disease prevention, like birth control and all that. Sexuality education is much beyond that, in terms of recognizing our physical changes that we go through. Our sexuality is something which our bodily changes, and what we are, what I am as a male, what I am going through in my body Am I comfortable in my skin? Similarly for transgender children, which we generally ignore, whom we generally ignore, what are their preferences? How comfortable are they in their bodies? Because a lot of hormonal changes also take place during this stage.
Right.
As I said, understanding one's own sexuality and gender assumes importance, right? We cannot, our sexuality, recognizing our sexuality cannot be determined by the preferences of somebody else. Our socialization determines of how we behave. So we cannot, our sexuality cannot be guided by the perceptions of others. We need to provide, another thing is, we need to provide learners with access to appropriate and accurate information. What is happening is now children have a lot of access to the internet.
Right.
So there is a whole world of, I would say, not the right kind of knowledge, right? And these are some things, these issues with something they don't feel comfortable discussing with their parents or in school. So they take resort to whatever is freely available. So how do they know what is right and what is wrong? So this is where the school, the principal and the teachers come in, to give them the right kind of information.
Right. But for that, the school has to provide a safe environment.
Absolutely.
That yes, your secrets will be safe with us.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. The school, and also other than providing them the safety of their apprehensions or whatever, or discussion with them, school also has to do something, the culture of silence. If something happens to a child or a girl or a boy, they are scared. They're not able to come out with it. Like, okay, this has happened to me. So what happens is, we don't, the principal or the teachers unaware that the child is going through some kind of abuse or some kind of mental trauma which may have happened on the way to school or in the school. So the teachers and the principal have to bring that comfort level with the students, and that that kind of secrecy, as we're talking about, that confidentiality. Yes, you can discuss it out with me and it will be confidential. So we need to bring about that kind of an inclusive environment in the school. As I said, we need to provide the right kind of education for holistic development. It is the right kind of education is just not in terms of grades, doing well, providing extra classes. For a holistic development, gender sensitivity is it should be an important aspect of holistic development, whether you're doing it through your assessment, your internal assessment, or your assessment of sports, etc. The kind of language that children use in the classroom, whether it is gender sensitive, whether they're respecting the other sex, So these are the kind of things which need to be included in assessment.
Okay. Ma'am, we have a question from one of our viewers, and it's not a question, it's actually a statement. So I would like to have your opinion on that. And there's a viewer which says, girls and boys are segregated heavily, they sit far apart, there's no way this could reverse in near time. So I'm asking for your opinion here. Do we need to try to reverse these roles, or are we trying to avoid these roles, or are we trying to be positive and grow and say that this is not happening, this should not happen?
I'll just make a point. We are not looking for reversal of roles.
Very.
We are just not talking about reversal of roles. Yes, of course, there are some schools which have set up separate seating arrangement for girls and separate seating arrangement for boys. But if the schools can try out, a mixed seating arrangement and see, because, it is important for boys and girls to interact in a healthy way right from the young age, like, the preparatory stages and the foundational stage, so that they understand each other better, and as they grow up, then they have a level of respect for each other's emotions, each other's expressions and perceptions. So segregation can, we wouldn't say, I don't think you'll say segregation is a bad thing, but if you have a mixed seating arrangement also, you can try it out. The schools can try it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, very well said by Professor Millie, because actually these questions we are generally posed up with, but what happens is the cultural variation is there in India. When we talk of these cultural variation at certain areas, of course at the primary stage or the elementary stage, we do say that we do not have to have segregated seating arrangement, because primary years are the growing up years where they need to know each other well, where they need to work with each other, they need to understand with each other. So at the elementary stage, it is very important that they grow together. and we generally prescribe them with that, yes, there should be a mixed seating arrangement. But what happens is, as children come to the secondary stage, certain parents have apprehensions, maybe some cultural barriers as such, where they do not allow, maybe they do not allow, but we should say that they don't like that girls and boys being mixing together. So seeing the cultural context, the teachers need to strategize themselves, because initially there will be inhibition, but when they start seeing, supposing they make in a small group, maybe the one row in the front and then the second row at the back, boys. So the teachers need to try out certain things and win the confidence of the society that mixing is not bad, because that is important for them to know.
Absolutely.
That mixing lets them understand each other. So that is very important. And of course, what Professor Millie said, role reversal, never we have talked of that there should be role reversals. Because when we talk of equity and equality, because equity comes and then equality comes in. So when we talk of equity, the need that I have, I should be getting what I need. It is according need based. And and we have to live together. And we have to live in a sharing and a caring atmosphere, where we cannot say that, of course, now I have done this bit, now you're going to do it. So it's not a role reversal. We have to work together. Even in classroom, we say the activities should be given together. So that is the kind of a thing that we were looking in. Professor Millie wants to add.
Because I'm sure teachers do group work in classrooms. So that's when boys and girls together do the group work, and even sometimes they play together in the playground. Right? So looking at that, I'm sure you can give it a try, a mixed seating, as she said, with the front row. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But our focus is not on the seating arrangement actually, but as long as boys are sensitized equally on gender issues.
So even this is a sociological aspect,
right?
Absolutely. And moreover, Tanvi, here we have to take parents into confidence. It's very important that whatever activities or whatever changes we want out of or we want to bring in, specifically related to the sociological issues. So we need to put on board the parents or the community members into it. Because suddenly if you would, as a school, as an ideal school, you would like to change it, but the community doesn't accept it. So there will be a hue and cry regarding that. So whatever the changes or whatever thoda hatke league mein you want to do it, or you want to show something, or you want to do something, you need to take your maybe the SMC members on board, or maybe some parent teachers meeting on board, where you discuss that this is the thing that we are going to try out, and we need your acceptance so that you accept it. This is for your child's benefit. So taking them on board is very, very important. So that is required when we want to change something which is already there in the system. That is important.
Okay. Ma'am, let's move further, and because we want to understand this course, and I would like to ask you about some pedagogical methods which are needed to address the adolescence issues.
Absolutely. I'm sure teachers, they are experts in various activities in the classroom, but this is just some suggestive activities, pedagogical methods rather, to address adolescence issues. There can be a question box. You can keep a question box in the classroom or in the school as such for students of this stage to put in their questions, whatever questions they feel like, whether it's bodily changes or the stress that they're going through. And these questions can be seen at the end of the day by the concerned authorities, the teachers or the principal, and then probably answer them, take the child into confidence and then answer their queries, because it's very important so that children don't resort to other kinds of medium and methods to get their questions or their queries answered. That can be dangerous for them. Role play is a very effective way in sort of dealing with issues. There may be a number of themes. I'm sure teachers themselves do role play in class. Get the boys and girls involved. Give them some themes on adolescence issues, what they can work out with. Make them write the script, and then the teacher can be a guiding force in writing the script, and then have it in the classroom and make children participate. That way, you have all children participating and interacting with each other. There can be situation analysis. You can create a situation and ask children to ponder, why does it happen? What are the ways we can rectify it? You can also have group discussion. I'm sure you have group discussion in class. Project work is, of course, you can give them a project on any one theme. Is there any other method, teachers, my dear teachers and school heads, that you may choose to use in the classroom? You can write to us. What are the other effective methods which we may not know, but you are using in the classroom? That will of course enlighten us some more. There's one activity, Tanvi, for the teachers. This is a question box. We want to test how aware are you of adolescence issues. Assume that you are a girl, a boy or a transgender student. Prepare some questions that you would like to put in the question box so that they may be addressed by school authorities. This is just an understanding of how much awareness do you have on adolescence issues.
Okay.
And there's another one aspect that I think we need to understand is understanding transgender children. Many of us sort of just brush it under the carpet. Oh, transgender child hai to what to do,
Yeah.
But we need to integrate them, and the NEP 2020 has categorically said there is a need to involve transgender, integrate them in the schooling process. So there is an activity for the teachers. You just have to tick the right box. Being a transgender is natural. Is it a disorder? Any other, please specify if you have any other statement to make. The other column is, why are transgender people not generally included in society? Because of their physical appearance, they are not capable. Ignored because of the lesser number of transgender communities in the country, or any other reason that you can justify.
Okay, ma'am, we have a question here by one of our viewers, and it's a very general question. The viewer wants to know the difference between sex and gender.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I can do that. Basically, if you would have gone through the module, you would have known that when we talk of sex, we talk of biological. Like if we say, we give an example, when a child is born, now the doctor, how does the doctor say that the child is a boy or a girl?
The sex of
it
the
is the
child.
It is the genital organs. That is purely biological. That we say, yes, the doctor says that the child which is born, because there is no other cloth on the child, so the child, doctor says, is a girl or a boy, seeing the genital or the biological genital organs which are there. But slowly as the child grows up and we start making that child socialize in the terms of the clothes that we give them, maybe even the colors, the differentiation of the pinks and the blues, as we say that it's been commercialized in that way, the colors that have been assigned, the toys that we assign, the mannerism that we say, the kind of clothes we expect them to wear, that the shorts is to be wear. And if a girl sometimes wears a short or a t-shirt and then it is said, no, she must be, and if she has a boy cut, she has a cut like a boy, as we generally say, that boys generally keep a short hair. If that short hair is there, then they say, no, it's a boy who's going, because there's no other way that we can say that the child is a boy or a girl, because all their biological or the genital organs, they are all hidden under the clothes.
Right.
So it is the way they wear, the way they enact, or the kind of roles maybe they are expected. And if you see, children are they have a good image about image of the society, because when they play, you must have seen, or I would have also played at my time, ghar ghar, and who becomes a mother, who becomes a father, and the kind of games that they want to play, ki aapka ye role hoga, I will be doing like this, like you come into the house, you go out and work, I as a mother will be cooking, when you will come, you will be tired. So the kind of games that they start playing, it is an image of what they observe from their environment. And they observe these kinds of activities going around them. And there's a very beautiful video when even a child, and it was so sensitive, that video, that it's come on many times on WhatsApp also, that they're playing ghar ghar, they're from different families, but then suddenly the boy says, now I'll come back home and I'll start beating you, because I've seen my father beating my mother. So the child even enacts that kind of a thing, because the child sees that the mother is being beaten up by the father. So these kinds of things, when they imbibe from the society, these kinds of roles and responsibility, that gives a definition which is called as a gender. Then we make them more into masculine, we make them into feminine. And the roles and responsibilities that are assigned, that makes them what they are. Very important thing between sex and gender is that gender can be changed and sex cannot. Of course, with biological and medical advancements and surgeries, we can. But gender is not static. The gender maybe in the past is not the same definition as today. Gendered definition of people in the northeast is not the same in the Haryana, or maybe in Haryana the same is not in the south. So gender keeps changing, and it changes according to time and space.
Absolutely.
Whereas sex, it does not change.
Very
This
well
is the
defined,
basic
ma'am.
definition.
So I hope our viewer who was asking this question, you've got your response pretty nicely and neatly. So let's go further, and because ma'am talked about the definition of gender so greatly, I want to know that why is it important for boys to understand the masculinity or the equality and even the empowerment, ma'am?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tanvi. As I said from the beginning, it is equally important to address boys on notions of masculinity, equality and empowerment, because generally we think, gender, girls' education, we have to address girls. Because unless we take boys on board, it's a battle half won, because, it's many things are perpetuated by the kind of behaviors that boys undergo, in terms of they react to certain things with girls or with transgender students. So why is this happening? As she said, this all thing to do with gender. Boys are socialized into roles of breadwinners, because they have that power that, okay, I am the breadwinner, so I am authoritative, all decisions lie with me, because they must have seen that happening in their family. The major decisions are taken by the male members of the family. So they are socialized, they are brought up into believing so, okay, I will take all the decisions and I will behave the way I want to because I'm a boy. I can go out any time of the house and come back any time to play, but my sister has to be home before it is dusk.
Yes.
I can go out and play football with my friends, but I won't let my sister come in and play football with the other boys. So these are also these are notions of masculinity. Sports like football, soccer, cricket, and very masculine sports like adventure sports. So when that thing comes in our mind, do we have the image of a girl with this kind of adventure sports? So we don't have that kind of an image because we are socialized into believing so, right? And notions of masculinity have implication, as I said, on their behaviors and activities that often culminate in violent behavior, abusive language, because as I said, whatever it is, we are all a part of a patriarchal society, we are all products of it. And so our upbringing is such that the boys and the girls, they see, as Professor Mona Yadav has said, that what they see at home, they internalize it and then they exhibit it, right? So these things, addressing boys and notions of masculinity is extremely important, and therefore these kinds of issues, like issues of masculinity, gender equality and empowerment, Tanvi, they have to be an integral part of our classroom discussions and debate. Our textbooks or our non-textual material is just not for reading them and preparing for examinations. Teachers and principals have to take that extra effort to bring these issues, whether it's in terms of case studies or in examples, and have discussions in class, healthy discussions in class. And at least, we are not saying that we are expecting change in them immediately, but at least this will open up. This will open up avenues. This will open up their thinking of boys. Yes, this is happening. I am a product of this. And at least if they start thinking about it, Tanvi, then yes, our education is going in the right direction. That is why it is important to address boys on notions of masculinity.
Can I just
Yes.
add on a little? Because as very well said, that till now, whatever we have been talking of, because when we talk of our policies, our programs, our curriculums and everything, initially this was building in like how to empower women. Initially, in the beginning, it was that hame unko, because their health is important. So let us focus on their health. If we focus on women's health, it would be good enough that if women are healthy, because they are giving birth to the child and they need to be looked after. So everything was focusing on their health. Then came in that yes, no, health is not alone important. If women needs to be brought into the forefront, there are very many issues which are related to it. She should be empowered in the real sense. So then it came in that how should we make are girls and women empowered so that they are the decision makers. They can distinguish between the good choices, what good choice they can make regarding their careers or maybe their partners, or very many things regarding their vocations that they want to take. So then it was that the focus should be more on empowerment. And for empowerment of girls, there were very many schemes, how to bring in, given scholarship, maybe the girls who are belonging to the SC category, the tribal girls, and maybe from the educationally backward blocks, or maybe the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. But now, since doing all this, still it was not enough. The violence was becoming rampant. The security was still an issue. So then there was a lot of thinking going on, as Professor Millie has said, that this is alone not just empowering the girls is not enough, because the counterparts, our better halves we should say, they themselves need to be sensitized as to why they should respect the body of the other. So it's very important for the boys to understand what is going wrong. It's enough of sensitizing the girls that this is do's and don'ts, come before time, don't do this, ye karna hai, wo nahi karna, bahut ho gaya. Now we need to sensitize our boys towards it, that why is it important to respect somebody's dignity, respect that the girl is saying no means no. Right. So that kind of change is required. So it's very important that the boys should be confronted to the patriarchy and the masculinity, that they have made so much into the masculinity that they feel that the power that they drive is from that masculinity. So they need to address this kind of masculinity. So it's very important that we address these concerns in our school environment itself, because these discussions should happen. If these discussions don't happen, then it becomes very difficult for boys to understand, and we will only be doing one kind of a thing, keep on telling the girls ki aapko ye karna hai, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you will get scholarship, but who is perpetuating all this, or because of whom this is becoming? Because we are equal partners. Nobody is big, nobody is small, and if we want to travel together, we need to be on the equal footing. So that is very important when we talk about this.
I'd just like to add to her, Tanvi.
Yes,
if you just see, how media plays an important role. The advertisements, our films, full of those, those high-level octane voices. How men are portrayed, how the heroes are portrayed. But now there is a change. If you see the Cadbury ad, the recent Cadbury ad, right? I was talking about how sport is a very, a masculine sport. Earlier Cadbury ad, if you see, it was the boy who was playing cricket and the girl is cheering and she comes. Now it's the opposite. So, and it is such a good feeling. So these things, I think there is a change going on in terms of perception, how we look at gender roles.
True. The ad was very well appreciated by
everyone. Yes, absolutely.
And ma'am, when you're talking about the gender, the healthy discussions on gender by everybody, we need to have gender-friendly schools. Do we have? Can you explain the concept of this?
Yeah, of course, schools, as we all know, they are very, very important institutions. And school being important institutions, it is very important to make them gender inclusive. Yes. Now, how do we make these schools gender inclusive? First, we got to know that what does a school comprise of. When we talk of schools, we talk of the kind of physical infrastructure which is present there, we talk about the teachers, we talk about the principals, we talk about the supporting staff, we talk about the teaching learning material, we talk about the textbooks, we talk about the curriculum. So when we are talking of making a school, a gender inclusive school, it is very important that we talk of all these aspects. So for being a gender friendly school, first and foremost is integrating the experiences of all, which includes the girls, the boys, and even the transgender children, because transgender children need to be integrated into the school curriculum, because till now they have been out of the ambit of the school. Now they have to be integrated into the school. So addressing the needs of the school's physical environment, because as we see, physical environment is very important. If we do not have toilets for girls, if we do not have toilets for functional toilets are there. Every school has toilets, but government schools specifically, we talk of specifically at the age of secondary stage, where the girls are mensurating. And when they are mensurating, there needs to be a vending machine, sanitary pad vending machine, incinerating machine, where they can throw their sanitary pads. So secondary stage, it is very important that the infrastructure which is being provided is good enough. Not only infrastructure in terms of toilets, we need to have sports facilities. Now generally we see in our playgrounds, who occupies the space in the playground?
Boys.
Or maybe even the lunchtime, who occupies the space?
Boys.
It's the boys. And where do we see the girls? The girls will be talking quietly, maybe under a tree, near the classroom, or maybe in a group. You never find them moving around in the spaces of the school.
Yes.
Because they have always been restricted to the spaces. They've never been given a whole lot of space that this whole world is yours. They've been told near the house, near the school, near the class premises, don't go beyond the class premises, because that is not good. Maybe something happens to you. So that kind of a feeling is always there. So what kind of physical environment we are giving to our children, that is important. How gender inclusive is our teaching learning material.
Okay.
That is our textbooks. Then important is how interactions happen. As one question had come in, if you are segregating them, and Professor Millie had said it's very important that we keep the group activity. In the group activity, if they work together, it becomes very much easier for them to interact and know each other very well. So it's very important that we look at the school in a holistic manner. And how do we look that? First and foremost, as it was discussed, that there should be a zero tolerance policy. Now what do we mean by the zero tolerance policy? Zero tolerance policy means any kind of violence, any kind of harassment will not be allowed in the school premises. That's very important. We need to make our physical environment gender inclusive. As I had said, school culture should foster respect and dignity of all learners, and that includes all genders. Of course, as we all know, visual displays are always there in our school walls. So how are these visual displays there? Is it gender inclusive? Or is it gender biased? Do we have pictures of both boys, girls, transgender whenever we talk of the visual displays in the school? Very important thing, regular professional training of all the staff members, including even a peon, including even a transporter, including maybe a conductor or a driver. They all need to be gender inclusive. And of course, we need to provide opportunities for learners to participate equally in all the activities that is being taken place. Now friends, if we go further, there is one more thing which is there, what is called as in the curriculum, which is very, very important, which is called as the hidden curriculum.
Ma'am, I just want to say one thing. We have a viewer, Anand, and he's asking the question regarding the hidden curriculum only.
Okay,
the question is, how hidden curriculum is helpful in school premises?
Okay, wonderful. That's what I was going into, and that was the slide which we were talking of. That what is a hidden curriculum? Now, as a teacher, I should be I am supposed to be an unbiased person. But when I am teaching, what I do, I continuously look at only one gender. Like I only talk to the boys or only talk to the girls. That is mean I'm giving a hidden message to my other section or the other children that I am only interested in teaching only boys or maybe the girls. There are hidden ways in which the teachers themselves, they become biased. Like any activity, if there is an activity regarding removing of the desk, then who is given the activity to do the remove the desk? It is the boys, because it's heavy. So they feel being heavy, that load can only be taken up by the boys. So they are going to take up this kind of an activity. So now when we talk of all this, it's very important that this hidden curriculum needs to be addressed. Hidden curriculum can be in the terms of the way teacher talks to the students, the hidden messages which she passes on, maybe the hidden way she says that if there is a Rangoli competition, competition, or maybe a rangoli is to be made, then it is always the girls who's making the rangoli. So these small things, because teachers themselves come from the same social pattern, and when they come from the same socialization, they are some or the other way, they are themselves socialized into being, and some kind of a biasness comes into them. So they need to do their unlearning themselves, and that is how they can address this kind of an hidden curriculum. Now if we go further into it, it is very important that the role of teachers in this is very important, that how do we make our teachers more gender sensitive, and I think Professor Millie can address this issue.
I'm just drawing, just go on the next slide.
Yes.
I just, attention teachers, you have to give wings to your students so that they can dream and fly. I would like to, say this to the teachers. You have to, just ponder about these things which I'm bringing out to you. Just think about it. Do your own actions and thoughts perpetuate biases and gender stereotypes in schools? The way you address a boy and the way you address a girl, what kind of questions you ask in class, do you very mechanically just read out what's in the textbook? Do you give equal opportunities to girls to freely express themselves? Have you analyzed your own existing prejudices, your own actions? Have you thought about the actions that I am doing? Is it going to create more biases, more inequality in the classroom through the pedagogies that you're using? The teacher programs, the teacher development programs that you have attended, do they address gender issues? Have you thought about it? If they don't, then you must bring it out, and you must bring it out in the open, discuss it with your principals, and say, no, I want to attend a program which has more of issues relating to gender. Have you tried to acquire the skills? I mean, have you the necessary skills that you need to integrate gender dimensions in your teaching learning process? Have you also tried going beyond the textbook? So these are some of the issues, teachers, that you need to integrate, think about, and then probably you will realize the importance, and then integrate them in your classroom transactions, which Professor Mona Yadav will take up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before that, I just want to add on a very small thing, that the principals need to be gender inclusive too. And for principals being gender inclusive, it is very important that they need to regularly do the gender auditing of the school, because gender auditing of the school is very, very important. Because here what happens is, here I would like to show you a slide in here where we have talked of how gender auditing of the schools can be done. If you can see from the slide here, that gender auditing of the school can be done in the following aspect. We can have gender safe access and safety and security of all gender sensitive curriculum and classroom processes, gender sensitive teaching and learning resources or whatever materials we are using, gender inclusive facilities, physical environment in the school and classrooms, involvement of parents and community members for building a gender inclusive environment beyond schools also. And of course, as we had already talked of, that zero tolerance is very, very important, and it has to be against all forms of gender violence. Okay. Now, one important thing I think Professor Millie was talking of was integrating. That how do we integrate, or is it important to integrate? This is again a very important question. On and off, we in our department are facing this kind of a question. Every time it comes in that there should be a separate curriculum for gender. Why not introduce a new curriculum for gender? But introducing anything in new, because gender is not a small kind of an aspect which can be taken up separately. It has to be integrated. It is part and parcel of all discipline. It is part and parcel of our living. Right. So we cannot say that, and it cuts across all sections of the society. So we cannot say that just giving a separate curriculum would help us into it. So it's very important that we go through as to how gender can be integrated in the various disciplines.
I'll just add to what Professor Mona Yadav is saying. Integrated, there are a lot of, there might not be gender as such in your textbook, the term gender, but there is an immense scope on how to integrate gender aspects in your in the transaction of various disciplines. So do not locate gender separately, out of the chapter or anything. There's no gender here, so why should I bother? No, if there is a discussion on any, say, the political processes, say in India, the panchayat system, and if nothing is there about women, you can always bring it out in the classroom. Why are women absent in the panchayat process? Why do we have less women? So that's the way to integrate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, on that context, we have a question from one of our viewers, and he's asking, can you explain the major challenges of gender equality?
Oh, there are numerous.
There's not one challenge there.
If you want to highlight.
Yeah. There are many challenges for gender equality, and the first and foremost is attitude.
Your own perceptions.
Your own perceptions and your own mindset. If you change your mindset, maybe you can work for changing others' mindset. वो है ना, तू खुद को बदल तभी ज़माना बदलेगा. So if you change yourself, then only you can expect others to change. But if you are behaving in the same manner, or maybe if you are biased towards on certain aspects, then again you cannot expect others to be unbiased.
Right.
So it's very important for first and foremost challenges, changing the mindset and the attitude. That does not happen in just 40 minutes or maybe 1.5 hour session. It takes time. But yes, ignition happens, thinking happens, some kind of thinking process goes on, and some kind of ignition goes on, that we need to work on this issue. So that is very important, that we start thinking, yes, this is important, and what we do everywhere, we have to do in an equal format. So that starts from self. Then it starts with the family. That what is my behavior in the family? How am I doing various activities in the family? Because my little child is imbibing what I am doing.
Yes.
And then if you are a teacher, as a teacher, because now you become, your third role comes in after yourself, your family, now the society, or maybe the workplace where you are in, and how I'm going to address this concern in the workplace where I am. As a teacher, it's very important for them to do the unlearning, again we are saying, in certain aspects, and of course if they are well aware of it, then they have to give this learning to the others, that is their students. So it's very important. So challenges we will have, because the mindset challenge is a very important challenge. The patriarchy which is imbibed in us, it's very importantly, usko nikalna, it's not easy. So changing in masculinity, having that power feeling, usko badalna, usko equality में देना कि हाँ, if you are equally important in this thing, in the earning, you can also earn, even I can earn. In the household chore, we will together do it. Maybe one does little more, one does little less. So it happens. So that mindset needs to be there, that I need to work for it. So that we feel. Of course, challenges will be there, like we have for girls challenges. Sometimes there's a challenge of access, then there's challenge of enrollment, then not only that, retention is a major challenge. So all these challenges we do, and then security is a major challenge, where we talk, and violence is a major challenge. So these challenges we are there, but we need to work for these challenges by changing the mindset.
I think, Tanvi, what the teachers and school heads can do is, they can begin to sort of see what are the challenges of gender equality at home. You retrospect at home, what kind of activities or work that you or the female members are involved in. That itself will see a lot of things. So we have to begin with ourselves.
Yeah. That is important.
As Mahatma Gandhi, I think, says that be the change
you
want.
want.
Yes,
You want
absolutely,
others.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So sharing, that's what we need to learn.
Yes.
And there's one more question here, ma'am. Would you like to answer this? And what are the major challenges of women empowerment?
They are the same very many things as we have talked of, because if you women empowerment, first and foremost, it is important that to understand why women's empowerment. Why do we need women's empowerment? That means they are disempowered. That is why we are talking of empowerment. And if they are disempowered in what ways? Are they disempowered in terms of economy? Are they disempowered in terms of giving equal status? Are they disempowered in terms of decision making? Are they disempowered in making, in walking hand in hand or walking along with you in various fronts? So what is the area that you want to work on? And for that, basically, if you want to make them empowered, it is first and foremost that you need to think in that why is it that they have been disempowered, what are the reasons that they are making them women as disempowered. If it in the society they are not having equal status, then why are they not having equal status? Why are they not being treated? Why are they being beaten up? Why is it that the man feels that I have the right to beat up the women? Why does the man feel that I cannot hear a no from her? So these kinds of aspects, and these empowerment goes in various aspects. It may be in the social aspect, social empowerment, emotional empowerment, economic empowerment, political empowerment. How many do we have representatives of us in the politics? How many representation is there? Even that 33% reservation in the in our parliament, that's again being a question mark there.
Yes.
So we need to think on that how do we make them as equal partners, because unless and until we make them as equal partners, because everything that we are doing, it is affecting both of us, or rather three of us, maybe the transgender is also part of it. So when it is affecting all of us, so why not we be all in the part of the decision making? Why we all not be the part of any activity that has been happening? So equal representation is very important.
And I'd like to add, Tanvi, I think one of the biggest hurdles is lack of access to a basic, holistic and quality education for girls. Unless we provide that, obviously there will be challenges to women's empowerment and also to gender equality. So unless girls have access to a proper education which gives them the stability and security of their own safety, security, and also in terms of a career, so the challenge will continue to thrive.
Okay.
One aspect that we are leaving here is, I think, Tanvi, is how do teachers integrate this gender aspect into their teaching learning process. So as we were showing through the slides also, that how in various disciplines, like in language, like in mathematics, like in sciences, like in social sciences, how they can go about it. Like you would be seeing the slide on the languages, how language teaching can be made gender inclusive. For that, language teaching learning must address the issue of women's invisibility in speech and writing. Languages may help in bringing voice of women to the teaching learning processes. Girls, boys and transgender should be taught to question stereotypes, unequal values, traditions and practices through language. And language is very important, mind you, because there are very many languages, even abuses in the language. Language gives you even abuses, and some of the abuses are related to women.
Yes.
This is very disheartening to know that how language is being used and to demean anyone, to demean the other sex. It's very important. Language plays a very important role. Now we need to have a very gender inclusive language, where we need to now, like somebody said, role reversal. No, we do not want now everywhere there should be an address to women, 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 or maybe girls, girls, she. No. Now we want that there should be an equal address to both, and sometimes we feel if we are not able to, unless and until of course the character is a male or a female, then we can use pronouns, plural pronouns. Like there are certain examples it's there. We should avoid these kinds of examples when we say he's done a work in a manly way. What do you mean by manly way? So that needs to be avoided. We say, oh, that was the woman's work. So if she's done it, what's great about it? So why should we use that this is a woman's work? It can be anybody's work.
Right.
So these kinds of statements, thank you to the ladies for making the room more beautiful. Why do we say that? It's the man who can also make the room beautiful. Why it is only women's duty to make the room beautiful? Then there can be, of course, men just don't understand. Even women say that sometimes. So even women are biased. And in fact, many things people say that women are more biased in certain areas than men. So they even think that way. So we need to, in the language, it's very important that we address these concerns through our language teaching. It's important because language is the important medium for all subjects.
Right.
So that needs to be very much inclusive.
I'd like to add something
Yes.
very important, because you know how we have also transitioned from the kind of language we used to use in our textbooks. If you remember in the earlier history textbooks, say 20 years back or 10 years back, we used to, there's a period in the Paleolithic stage, and we used to do early man, right? Now we do not use early man, because when you say early man, it means only men did everything. Now we use the term early humans. So that encompasses men and women. That means women also had an equal role to play in historical processes.
True. And here I would like to add something. So we always say that he's a businessman, or this is a businessman. There was a lot lot of protest on this.
Yes, it's always a business person.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, even the terminologies that we use. Earlier it was chairman, chairman. Now it's chairperson.
Yeah. So we need to change these things. It's very important.
This was a struggle to reach here.
Yes, of course.
But of course we say that change is happening, but very slowly.
Very slow. And whenever it happens is when we address a child, we always say child is he. But the child are both. And maybe the child is a transgender. Maybe he and she both. So why do we need to only address the child as a he? So it's very important, and specifically for teachers, because there are girls sitting there in the classroom. And when you go on saying he, of course the child feels that the she is missing somewhere, that I am not, it's not meant for me. A very small example, quickly I'll say. So one of the training programs, one of the teachers said that now, because in between NCERT had taken up that there was she being used in many of our things when we were transacting and saying and materials that we were using. So one of the teachers said that the boy of my class said that this activity is not meant for me, meant for him, because it is written for a girl. So why should I do this activity? Because it's not meant for a boy. But till now, when the textbooks were talking of he, then it was okay with the girls, that they were doing all the activities, even if there was a he mentioned in there. So we need to make the child understand, because child will not understand this, because child will feel. But when the boy can feel that I'm not there in the text, it's not meant for me, though girls never questioned that and never said that we were never there in the text, so I will not be doing that. So we need to understand that boy that why it is important to have she also along with the he. And some activities might have he and some activities might have she, but it is meant for both. So that needs to be, and in fact when we generally take up SHEE, she has a he. So it's more inclusive. So
that's actually a valid point, and I've never thought about it.
So it's just for this thing I'm saying, but we generally think, we need to think that way. We need to make our children think that way, because they have learned from the society that it's he, if it's meant, then only you're supposed to do it. Otherwise you're not supposed to.
On a fun note, one of my college teachers once said, why are there abuses in women, in regard to women? Because when you abuse somebody, talking about the mother or the sister, then the man or the person gets hurt most, because we value our mothers or our women more than the man in the family.
Because honor is related to women.
Yes.
Family honor.
The dignity,
yes.
honor.
So if it is related to women, so abuse is related to women. And that means you are hurting at his honor. Because if you are abusing, giving a woman abuse, because honor, everything is related to women. Women is supposed to have the shouldering the honor of the family. So that is the main reason that they want to hit it at the honor of the family. So the abuses are related to women. So we need to think of all these things, that why these things happen. And sometimes they are so socialized into it that without knowing, they give those abuses.
Right.
So that is important to internalize.
And that is why, this is the stage when, boys use it. It is a sign of masculinity to abuse, to use abusive language, where the connotation always has a hidden, that female thing, as you said. So that also gives them a sense of power. So this is why it is very important to address boys at this stage.
Absolutely.
We can, I think, go to the next one, that is mathematics, because generally it is said that mathematics is a masculine subject, and it is very important for us to know that mathematics, and even the CBSE results and many results have shown that women have excelled, or girls have excelled in mathematics. Right. And we have Shakuntala Devi, a pioneer or a role model for us, who has been a good mathematician, a women mathematician. So how can, through mathematics, we can address these concerns? It's very important for teachers to know that all economical problems, maybe the wage problems, the sex ratios, the kind of property rights, these all can be addressed through mathematics. Because when we say father is giving equal property to all, not just the sons. Earlier it used to be the father has distributed his property among so and so two sons, and this is the amount of land which they are getting. What will be the total land? The problem sums that we generally give. So we addressed in the mathematics through our problem sums. But now the problem sum says that the father distributes his property equally among the boy, the daughter and the sons. So that shows we are giving a message that the property has to be distributed equally between all the children, whether a boy or a girl or maybe a transgender. Again, then there is one of the problems says that the earlier it used to be that a woman gets a 250 wage and a man gets around a 300 wage for a day, a labor. Now again, those through those problem sum we try and address that they have to get equal wages. Then we can show various graphical representations of sex ratio. We all know sex ratio is very less in many of the states. Women are very less. So how do we portray that? Through graphical, through mathematics. So we can show the social concern that is there through mathematics. So mathematics beautifully explains very many issues which are related to gender. Here we have given two examples, like work at home is equally important and productive, and through mathematical problem they can be shared or they can be shown. There is another aspect, that is dignity of work in all walks of life, that can be projected through many of the exercise. We have in the further slide, just I would share two examples.
Okay.
The first example is that 2 women and 5 men can together finish an embroidery work in 4 days, while 3 women and 6 men can finish it in 3 days. Find the time taken by 1 woman alone to finish the work, and also that taken by 1 man alone. Now here, important thing, the teacher can analyze that what is the gender perspective in this. I ask you, Tanvi, tell me, what is the gender perspective in this? The perspective is that the man is doing embroidery.
Which we don't relate to.
Which generally men do not
relate.
Yes. So they need to relate this way, that both man and women can do embroidery work. So it's an aspect that needs to, that teacher needs to highlight these aspects. We are trying to put such example, and this is an example from a class 10th textbook. So these examples we are putting in, but the teacher has to make an extra effort to tell the children that what is important also in here, the social aspect, that both man and women, that is why we say the subject needs to be integrated.
Absolutely.
So, and another example is there, the square of the number of female employees in an Air Force office is 120 more than the number of women doctors working in a nearby hospital. If the number of women doctors is double that of women employees in the office, find the number of women employees in the Air Force office and women doctors in the hospital. Again, an important aspect is that the women is outnumbering in the Air Force than in the hospital. So that is important. Such examples teachers need to create themselves and give it to the children.
Right.
So it is important, even if it is not there in the textbook, the teacher need to address these concerns.
Absolutely.
And quickly, if the time allows
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
then
Yes,
I can go through the sciences also, that why through science we can portray this, that the sciences need to be gender inclusive too. Now as we can see it, that through sciences it is very important that the contribution of women in science and technology, it still remains hidden. And when it is hidden, we need to make it to the forefront. That sciences also women had an important role to play. And one more thing is there. Tell me, in the kitchen, there is a major science in the kitchen. And who is there in the kitchen? It's always the women there in the kitchen. She knows the best of the achars. She knows how to make a good curry. She knows the remedies, home remedies. What is there of haldi? Haldi mein kya gun hai? She knows the best. So she is a good doctor also. So how sciences play in the kitchen, she knows it very well. So highlighting her contribution in the sciences is very, very important. We can do through various, again, there is very good example which has been given. I can show you, because, and you know that Chipko movement, which was, who gets affected most by if the environment is exploited? Is the women. Women goes off to far off places to fetch water if there is no water there. So it is her issue first. So she is the one who thought of that I need to preserve the environment. So Chipko movement was given by it was initiated by women, because they wanted to save the environment. They wanted to be gender friendly, or they want the environment to be friendly. So it is important to see how women can play various roles. There's very good example in our textbooks. Now there is one example there which is generally thought of, who determines the sex of the child. If anybody you ask, they say it's the female who's giving birth to a child, so the female who's responsible for giving a birth to a female child. It's not the case. It's the male who determines the sex of the child, because the Y chromosome comes from the male. So it is these examples, like there can be a chapter on, there's a chapter on how organisms reproduce. Here we can talk of very many reproductive technologies. Now you see all the contraceptives, everything is related to women. Why not to men? So we need to think of these kinds of technologies, that why contraceptions are only meant for, why do we focus more on women contraceptions rather than on the male contraceptions. So these we can address even in the heredity and evolution. There is a section on sex determination, as I had talked of, that who determines the sex of the child. So these are the ways that we can do it through the sciences, that how sciences can also be portraying gender inclusiveness. This is very, very important for teachers to do that. Okay.
And there's an irony in the stereotype that, when we say that mother is the cook, or she cooks everything in the family, and then when the son comes and say that I want to be a chef, the mother says that, why would you do that? It's a woman's job.
No, but then all the major chefs are men.
All the, yes, exactly.
I was just going to bring that about when she was talking about cooking at home, because that is considered as a profession.
Economy, related to money.
But even then, it's not really accepted in the families, and bawarchi.
Now I ask you, who are the dhobis? All male. Who are the cleaners? Who are sweeping the road? Men. But if they are asked to sweep at home, they will never do it. If they are asked to wash clothes, they'll never do it, because it's related to economy. So when whatever is related to economy, of course that is related to man.
I'll just take over briefly, Tanvi,
Yes,
because she's talked about science, mathematics and languages. I think we need to come to this very important discipline of social sciences, because there's a lot of scope in integrating gender concerns and transaction of social sciences. If you see the slide, I have just randomly placed women, the unheard and the unseen, or some maybe you might know, that's Mirabai over there, and there are some women working in the fields also. So that says a lot. Women working in the field, they are the unseen and the unheard, but they're also contributing to the economy, right? And they also have a picture of a lady who is making the Durga idol. This is from Calcutta. She's an idol artist, so she makes idols. Generally, that is a very male bastion, So yes, we are progressing. Our textual narrative has largely ignored the participation of women in social, economic and political processes. There is a need to not only include gender perspectives in our textual material, but also we need to contextualize such perspectives, So when with the new curriculum framework, and when we have to make our new textbooks, the states must integrate gender perspectives and contextualize them, because the states and the different regions may have fabulous examples of women, really playing an important role in the economy and in the social life. So this will enable girls to relate to their textbooks, share knowledge and their lived experiences, question existing prejudices and stereotypes, and work out suitable solution based on discussion and debate. So contextualization is very important, because sometimes our own textbooks may not have the space to give a place to each and everybody, to each and every region or state, their perspective. So the other textbooks other than the NCERT textbooks, they can surely do this. The next slide. I'll just give you an example of how the participation of women in political processes, particularly the national movement, how we need to integrate gender perspective in this theme. So we all know about the freedom movement, and we all think about Gandhiji, Nehru and a host of other freedom fighters who played a very important role. But we have to sit and ponder and think. Notions of national consciousness or the idea of nationalism is usually associated with masculinity. That's because when we think about national movement, masculinity, so the first thing that comes up is Gandhiji, Nehru, very rarely Sarojini Naidu or anybody else. But again, Sarojini Naidu, Aruna Asaf Ali, these are the very few women who come into our mind. But teachers need to remember there are a host of other women, the unseen and the unheard, who really gave their lives to the freedom movement. Therefore, discourse on the national movement cannot be complete without looking into the role that women played in the freedom movement. Thousands of lesser known ordinary women belonging to different parts of India came out of their homes in large numbers and participated in protest marches. They took part in revolutionary activities. They sang songs, because like men, they were also inspired by nationalism and wanted to see the end of foreign rule. There's an activity here can you identify the freedom fighters? Okay, so I'll just give you a thing. The first lady over here, she is Beena Das. She is a freedom fighter who attempted to assassinate the Bengal governor Stanley Jackson at the University of Calcutta. I'm sure many of us wouldn't have heard about her. Then the second picture is of Kanakalata Barua of Assam, who joined the Mrityu Bahini squad during the Quit India movement in 1942. She was shot dead while bearing the national flag, and there's a statue of hers in Assam. She was only 17 years old at that time, if I recall. Matangini Hazra, the next, so once you have the 17-year-old lady, and then you have Matangini Hazra, who's the next picture. She was 71 years old when she was on her way to capture a police station along with a large crowd during the Quit India movement. She was shot dead by the police in front of the Tamluk police station. She was fondly called Gandhi Buri. Gandhi Buri, in the sense, in Bengali, Buri means old woman. So the old woman, the old Gandhi woman.
Old version of Gandhi.
Absolutely. She was called the Gandhi Buri. And then the next picture is of Begum Hazrat Mahal. She really fought against the British rule in 1857 during the revolt of 1857. And the last visual is that of, this is a statue of some people. This is actually the Nupilan agitation of 1939. It is an important chapter in the history of Manipur and also in the context of women's movement. It was an agitation led by the women of Manipur against the oppressive policies of the British. You know, because in the agrarian economy of Manipur, rice played a very important role, and the involvement of women in selling and marketing rice was a very crucial role. But you know, the indiscriminate export of rice led to a sharp increase in the price of paddy. So this led to a kind of revolutionary movement by the women of Manipur, and I don't think many of us would have heard, or many of you would have heard about the Nupilan movement of Manipur. So why I'm giving you this example is to contextualize your pedagogical, the transaction methods that you use in the classroom.
Absolutely. So there's a variety of women, and women of all ages who fought along with the men.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we don't know about them.
That is exactly the idea why we need to contextualize, because what will happen is when the girls or the boys are also reading their own textual material, they'll be able to relate to that material. Oh, this is about me. This is about my state. This is about my region. So that kind of being able to relate to what is being taught, Tanvi, is very important.
True.
Okay. And one last thing is, you know, our textbooks, Tanvi, have a lot of visuals. What is the purpose of visuals? You tell me. Can you tell me?
And they're catchy, one can relate to it, and my gender is a part of the picture that makes me proud.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So visual is just not to, you know, fill empty spaces in textbooks. They have a role to play. The purpose of including visuals is not to use them as fillers, okay? They are important methods to explain concepts, pose critical comments, summarize ideas, and make comparisons. So interpreting images should be an important activity in the classroom. See, I've given an image. This is an image from a textbook, one of the history textbooks, social science textbooks. So, you know, and I've posed some questions. So how do you locate a gender perspective in this? So what does the visual portray? Does the visual convey an economic activity or a socio-cultural event? What kind of the work are men involved in this picture? Obviously, it seems like a desert region. It could be Rajasthan, or it could be Gujarat, or anywhere. So can we identify women in this visual? Right? So we cannot identify if there are no women. So what does the absence of women convey in this picture?
That women were not part of it.
Women were not involved in these kind of cattle selling. You know, because these are all very masculine jobs, you know, going for these fairs and, you know, taking your cattle, taking your camel. We wouldn't see a visual of a woman taking a cattle and going to a cattle fair. So that is why we need teachers to take that extra effort.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Ma'am, any message you have for our viewers, because this has been such an interesting session, and there's a lot to talk about, but we don't have that much time. We've just 1 minute left. So any message you have?
No, we basically, just for teachers, it's very important to go out of the box, beyond textbooks. It's very important for them not only to just restrict themselves to the textbooks. Maybe whatever the messages or the hidden messages are there in the text, when we are at NCERT, when we give any problem sum, we give any matter, we give a lot of thought into it. So even if certain thoughts are not present, maybe it's not there. So it's very important that they should relate it to their own context. It's very important is contextualization, because sitting at NCERT we cannot contextualize the whole of nation's content into one textbooks.
Right.
So the teachers should even take up the experiences of all the children which are present there in the classroom, because taking each and everybody's experience would help the children to understand the learner. So taking up their experiences and going beyond textbooks and understanding or giving them messages which is related to the society, it is very, very important. Then only they can address what we say is the real aspect of gender, because it's a social issues. It doesn't get transacted in a form, because like values are caught, they're not taught. Because they can be only spoken of, or when they see their own teachers behaving in a manner, then they imbibe it, children imbibe it. So how does teacher behave in her own way? She needs to address that first. Am I myself? As she said, Professor Millie said, that she needs to look into herself, reflect into herself, that what am I being? Am I a gender inclusive person? Am I being unbiased? Am I looking at all my children? Or am I in for only intelligent one? Not the one who are not able to learn, because teaching is teaching the last person or the last child in the classroom.
True.
It's not teaching the child who is already intelligent. It is teaching the child who are the slow learners who are there in the classroom.
Yes.
So it's very important to look into our own self, into our own pedagogical processes, and how we can, because we are with a cause, so how we can make our children more human.
Right.
That is very, very important.
So that's an advice everyone needs to take, including me, including everyone who is watching the session. Millie ma'am, any last message? Very brief, please.
Very briefly, I'll say, okay, be the change you want to be, introspect and begin from today. What do I want to change about myself to bring about gender equality in my classroom and in my school?
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you,
both of
Tanvi.
you,
Thank
for
you.
being here
Thank
and for answering the questions of our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've got great reviews, views, and even compliments for both of you. People are saying
Thank
that
you.
it was a wonderful session, very many insights we've got to know, and it was interesting to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the viewers for watching this session. I hope you've got your answers related to course number 7. And if there are any more questions, please reach out to us and send them. Tomorrow we are going to come back at the same time, 5:30 p.m. with the Hindi version of the same course number 7. And title would be विद्यालयी प्रक्रियाओं में जेंडर समावेशन. हम फिर से आएंगे कल, और आप सभी अपने सवाल तैयार रखिएगा, हम तक ज़रूर पहुंचाइएगा. हम आपको यहीं पर मिलेंगे और बातचीत के लिए तैयार रहेंगे हमारे 2 मेहमान हमारे साथ. तब तक के लिए आप अपना बहुत बहुत ध्यान रखिए. नमस्कार.